Welcome to Being at Home with George. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while since we've had one of these episodes or one of these conversations. It's been about 2, 3 weeks. I'm really happy to be here. One reason why I haven't been here is because I've been in Tahiti. I've been on the road, and as you might recall, when I talk to people, they think that going to Tahiti is like the creme de la creme. It's like, oh, that's the ultimate paradise. So I was in Tahiti for over a week, and it was amazing. And I just want to share some of my experiences, or what I would call adventures in paradise. But I want to begin with a framework of this being at home with George series, and that has to do with this idea of creating a vision of possibility uh, that includes embracing the hurt, the pain, the frustration, and at the same time generating the hope. And so you might say, well, why would you have to do that in paradise? Or why would you have to do that um, in Tahiti? And it's interesting because I remember having a conversation with Greg, and it was like we were away from COVID for a week, even though we had to wear masks and even though people were sensitive to making sure that we were social distancing and washing our hands and wearing a mask, except when eating. And the interesting thing is that I don't like red eye flights. That means overnight flights where you leave late at night and you arrive at the destination early in the morning. And we did. We arrived around 4:40 in the morning or whatever. And by the time we got to the hotel, I say it was like 4:40 a.m. and they didn't have a room for us. And I was upset about that. I reacted, but I'm sure the way I reacted wouldn't seem like a reaction because I was gentle, I was kind, but I was just saying, that's unacceptable. I'm supposed to wait. We've been flying all night. And so I got the realization that it was going to be hours, maybe 5 hours or more before I was able to get in a room and sleep because we had been flying all night. I caught myself, and so this is where the embracing the hurt or the frustration in this case and generating the hope. And I found myself saying, okay, so let me get this straight. You have to sit and explore this beautiful paradise, and you're upset. It's not like sitting on the dock of the bay. You're sitting in paradise waiting. So how many people would love to be here and just having nothing to do but just hang around and observe the beauty that's before us? And that's what I did. I had that shift that was generating hope, is saying, okay, and one of the things I realized was one way of generating hope is to be grateful and to look at the things that are right, the things that matter. And at the end of the day, I realized that you can be in paradise and you could see. I've seen scenes where somebody would be in a Sistine Chapel or in some exotic place and they're on their cell phone and they're just totally engaged in the thing that they would do if they were home rather than realizing that this is a special opportunity. You have to be present to experience paradise. And paradise is not just out there, it's in here. So I feel like even though I was in paradise, my ability to embrace whatever was before me and uh, to generate hope was really important. And so in that instance, and that wasn't the only instance because I was in a foreign country, don't really speak the language, and there's French and Polynesian, or I think that's the proper language, but I didn't really understand. So, and then they got different currency, and then I couldn't just get on my phone and call. You got to have connection to the internet, and their internet was iffy at best. And so I had to embrace all of that, and I came to the realization that paradise is just a breath away. I can just breathe and say, okay, I could be here and be so in my head, so worried about what didn't happen or what's not going to happen that I'm not really present. So to experience paradise externally or internally, we need to be present. And so yesterday, I'm here in LA, just taking some time to reflect and to recover, expending a lot of energy. And I wrote some things down. So one of the things I want to share with you is what I wrote down when I got back. To really live, to really feel alive, to really be fully present, we have to enjoy, be in the moment, and both embrace whatever we meet with love, compassion, understanding. Live each moment as our last moment because at some point it will be our last moment. We only live in this moment. It's the only time we can be, the only time we can choose our attitude. It's the only time we can choose and bring more love, more compassion, more understanding, and just embracing. Okay, I'm upset, I'm frustrated because I've been flying all night. I'm exhausted, and I don't have a hotel room, and I was supposed to have a hotel room, and I could dwell on that, or I could just say what I needed to say and just let it go and just say, oh, I'm in paradise. How do I use this time? How can I be present for myself? And that's how, when I say paradise is a breath away, relief is just a breath away. It's just a matter of shifting and focusing on, okay, what do I have, not what I don't have, or stories about what it means to be tired and not have a place to lay down and sleep where I was anticipating that. That's not the issue. It's the issue if I make it an issue, but really it's more about what we've been talking about all these weeks. We've been in COVID and we've had all of these challenges, and we have more challenges with election coming up and a lot of uncertainty, and how to bring paradise or to be present for paradise that's within. Because if I can experience paradise out there, it's only because I have it inside, and we talk about that all the time. So it's a time to just reflect on what I learned there. And the other thing was because I was working a lot and in between, so things weren't set up. Um, we didn't really understand exactly what we were doing, so we were going trial and error, and I had to understand that how I approach things really, really matters. So if I view it as transformative, as an opportunity, I talk about this generating hope. It also means having a growth mindset that says, okay, what's the lesson? What can I learn? Can I be present for this and understand that this is an opportunity, like all opportunities, to transform consciousness, as Joseph Campbell talked about, through trials and illuminations. And so this is a transformative experience because how I approach it, how I view it has everything to do with my experience. And so when I think about it from the idea of transformation, being able to learn from experience by embracing things and generating hope is really important. And then this idea of community or being communal with it, that I'm not just doing this for myself. So I begin with myself, but I don't end with myself. It's okay. So how can I share my experience, strength, and hope with others, and talk about okay in community? I can talk about it. I can have the social support that I need to be myself and to understand that this is okay. If the struggle, it's okay to not know what's going on. But what's not okay is not being present for my life, not being fully engaged in what's happening and creating that space between stimulus and response so I can choose my being. I can choose to be present, to be loving, to be compassionate, to have empathy, and to just seek to understand, well, what is this? How do I relate to this? And then seeing it as something that's going to be for the greater good. So how I learn, how I transform, understand how to interact with others, and understanding that the person that told me that the room's not available is not personal. They're just a messenger. And so we can control our experience and get to choose our mindset. And so for me, the the way to transform, the way to be in community, the way to be of service is to understand, have the growth mindset or mindset that's seeking to understand and seeking meaning. So that means reflecting. reflecting is really, really important. Reflecting on, okay, I can't do this at this time of COVID. What can I do? We've been talking about this in the past. I talked about making the shift from doing to being. And so just being and being present, being loving, being open, being willing. And in that, as things come, I can, in that space between stimulus and response, if I choose wrongly or unwisely, I can reset, redo. I can apologize. I can learn from my mistakes. But it's really about us. It's about how can I be here. And the interesting thing about the island and being really sensitive, I was very conscious of the fact that I was in this plush hotel. And outside of that hotel, the folks that live there don't really have a lot. There's not a, so I felt that. And then having a conversation and realizing that it's French Polynesia. Most of the places we go to, they've been liberated or they have their independence. France still owns this place, or still, it's a French province. So just feeling that sensitivity of the folks that live there, and not really having a lot, and not having, from what I could see, a industry. So hospitality, working in the hotels and whatnot. And the amazing thing was that these folks are really, really happy. They don't have much in terms of material stuff, but, and it's an island. It's in the middle of nowhere. Really think about it, 8 hours from LA. Yet it wasn't just paradise in terms of the environment. It's paradise in terms of the spirit of the people that I engaged with, I interacted with. And it's really interesting because they were kind. They always smile. They always say hi. And I had an experience where I came back to my room and there were bugs all over. I don't know if they were like mosquitoes or whatever. There were bugs all over my shower, all over the wall, all over the floor of the bathroom. And I closed the door and I called the front desk and said, "Hey, there's a bug problem here." And they said, "We'll send a housekeeping down." And this woman came down, and she was a middle-aged woman, and she came in, never got upset or anything, and she just went in and took care of business, took her shoes off, didn't track the room when she came in. It was really impressive. She said hi, and she took care of it. And she went out, came back in, and she cleaned everything out. And she came back, she gave me towels. She never flinched, never skipped a beat. And the bathroom was like new. But then that took something on my part because she said to me, "Oh, do you need to change rooms or whatever?" Because I guess she's used to people freaking out. And I didn't freak out. I just said no. I said, just see what you can do and we'll go from there. And it worked out perfectly. But that's it. And she did that like it was no big deal. She just did her job with grace, with ease. And I felt not only did she take care of things, clean up the bathroom, but she held that space for me to be however I needed to be. And she was she didn't make it a problem, and she fixed it, and she came back with fresh towels and everything. And that was the end of that. And so just being there and the beautiful people. And it's interesting because I was talking to someone and they said, "Oh, you're there with all the beautiful women and all that stuff." And I just said, "You watch too much TV." I didn't see that at all. I seen beautiful people, not in the sense of physical beauty, although there are beautiful people, but I saw a lot of folks who were just beautiful from the inside. So it's like they had paradise within them, and that was expressed in their being. They always smiled. I had one gentleman who brought my bags into the hotel, and I didn't have any money. I didn't have any foreign currency. And then when we were leaving, he took my bags out, and I said, Greg and I were talking. I said, "I got to go get some money because I want to pay him." And I went and got money. And I couldn't find him. And then when I found him, I said, "Hey, I have something for you." And he said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's cool. You don't have to give me anything." And I gave it to him. And I just said, "No, I have to give you this." And that's the kind of people that live on that island. And I'm sure there's different, some people are better than others or whatever. But what I experienced from being in paradise is that it's a lot easier to be kind. and to be loving and to serve. So transformation, I would say, comes from being in community and serving each other, and not beginning with the self, beginning with the self, but not ending with the self. So what does that have to do with our time now? Well, right now we're up against it. There's a lot of uncertainty about the election, and the COVID crisis seems to be to a point where I was talking to one of my clients that lives in Brussels, and they're shutting down Brussels for 6 weeks, and so pretty much locked in. Uh, can only go out to get food or whatever, but for the most part, you can't go out. And even in Tahiti, they had a curfew at 9 o'clock. We were eating in a restaurant, and we had to rush out because they're trying to keep the lid on COVID. So it's really interesting, that experience there. I had to get tested before I went there, and then once I got there, they gave me a test kit that I had to take 4 days after being there, a self administered COVID test, and I did that. And I'm saying, well, this little island doesn't have anywhere near the resources we have yet. They're making sure that people come. I'm not even a citizen. They're making sure that I'm tested to make sure that not only are they protecting their people, but they're also protecting me. So it's just the little things. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of tangible things other than just this basic kindness, this basic greeting each other in a way where you're here, you're part of our community, and we're here to serve. And so I think there's something about that. So how can we serve? How can we get out of our way and not even thinking about voting, not do something because I feel like I'm coming from fear, I'm coming from anger, and saying that, I'm going to vote for this candidate because this party or whatever didn't do anything, didn't do anything for me. I feel like it's really a time to reflect and think about transformation, community. How do we serve each other? How do we get beyond the illusion of separateness and understand that it's not about voting for one person or the other, although that's what people do. How about voting for life, voting for unity, voting for compassion, empathy, and basic goodness, and not just voting because you want to dominate or want power. And so when we get beyond the illusion of separateness, it becomes pretty obvious what we should be doing, what we can do. And the fact is, even though we feel powerless, voting is a way to express our power, to express our potency by making a choice, but choosing life, choosing unity, choosing helping people in the time of crisis and not taking away things that they need, like healthcare or Social Security, Medicaid, or whatever. And it's not so much the specific things; it's the expression of inclusiveness and being inclusive, of getting beyond the illusion of separateness and understand I and the other are one. And how can we do this together? Because it's better together. And so it's the same with me. I'm a whole person. I got a mind, body, and heart and soul, and that everyone else has that. And if I can sort of develop those aspects, the physical aspect, the mental aspect, the emotional, and the spiritual aspect. But to me, it's that triangle of transformation, uh, community, unity, and this idea of being of service, seeking to make things better, and connecting to something greater than ourselves, and forget ourselves, to find ourselves. So even though I may think that if I vote for this cat, I'm going to get a tax break, that helps me, but it doesn't help other people. So why not just say, okay, I don't mind paying more taxes. I want everybody to have health care, to have access. Vote for someone who is not interested in um, doing the right thing for all of us. So I don't mean to get into the political thing, but to me, it's not so much the political thing, it's the making a choice in the space between stimulus and response to live, like I talked about it before, to fully live, to really feel alive, to really be fully present. We have to enjoy, be in the moment, and both embrace whatever we meet with love, compassion, understanding.